Thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us. So, for the first time in about 7 years, the Central Bank of Nigeria is publishing and releasing its financial report, which has reviewed a few things which were, well, of course, perhaps some of you might have been reading it. About 15 billion naira in cash received owed to JP Morgan and Goldman Sachs just in 1 year. And it has also reviewed the status and the state of the ways and means and how it has been administered. It showed that the bank reported some credit losses over the last few years. The question a lot of people were asking, why are some of these not have been released? Why is this financial report coming as the first in 7 years or more? The security lendings and some of the forms, these lendings under the CBN, the external reserves, some of the issues that have come up on how they have been administered, the analysis of the Apex Bank's procedure and spendings have come under scrutiny. And tonight we shall be engaging in a conversation. Don't forget, the governor of Edo State once said that the government was printing money. A lot of people perhaps may be wondering, what exactly does that mean? It emerged also how and the manner in which the ways and means was being passed and supported by the National Assembly and heavily criticized. Mr. Paul Alaje is the chief economist at the SPM Professionals. He joins us live here on the program to give us an insight on this. Thank you so much indeed, Mr. Alaje, for joining us.
Thank you so very much for having me.
So, I like to take this for the sake of our viewers tonight, most of them who are not expert in your field, to break it down in a way that they can easily understand tonight and what has emerged from that CBN report. This is the first report in about 7 years. That means we're looking at whatever happened under the Buhari government. This is the first time we are publicly knowing the details of what happened financially, what the Apex Bank does. How often, statutorily, is the bank expected to release its financial report?
Yeah, thank you so very much once again for having me. The Central Bank Act is very clear. On annual basis, once every year, the central bank is mandated by the Act to release the reports of the activities of central bank, especially the financial activities of the central bank. Under Shukuma Shododo, we had this report on annual basis. Under the governor before Governor Emefiele, the suspended governor of the central bank, we had this report actually every year. That's under the Emir Sanusi, Lamido Sanusi. It was released every year. But you see, we started seeing a different trend. First, from ways and means, and you know that the ways and means, the information were not really together. So with the report, there are a lot of revelation and a lot of concerns. Number one, that the report that the authorities, Central Bank of Nigeria, has actually published all the while is not correct. We have always thought that when it comes to foreign reserve, Nigeria is between $34 billion to $38 billion. Not knowing that significant part of that money, about 40.7% of the money, it's actually not, it's actually under lending, and the money should be returned. Now, apart from that, there is nothing wrong with foreign reserve is not money that you will go and spend. It's actually money that you can use to defend your currency when attack comes. But when you now look at the kind of borrowing we have done, the question is, has that borrowing been approved by the Senate? None that I'm aware of.
And this is foreign borrowing.
And it's foreign borrowing. Two.
And it's 15 billion in two banks.
Yes.
In 1 year.
In 1 year. Is the Debt Management Office aware? It's not in their report. Recall that Ways and Means was not in the report. It was it completely disappeared.
Not captured at all.
Captured at all in the report shared in the DMO's office.
Which is against the financial laws of the country.
It's completely
against. And that was what raised the queries by some Nigerians to say, why would the Senate do what they termed as illegal when they know that this has not been properly captured, isn't it?
That's very correct. The Senate had to clean the mess in a way. And even the mess the Senate cleaned, what if it happens again? We have an acting central bank governor. What is going on in central bank today? Not so many people are aware of that. But here is the question. If we have a Senate that is supposed to perform oversight function on a central bank for 7 years, and the Senate was unable, did not get any reports, and there is nobody that said anything significant from members of the Senate for 7 years. Everybody just assumed everything was fine until very recently that this report came to limelight.
So this report is coming, Mr. Alaje, amid the investigation that the former chairman of the Financial Reporting Council, I know you know him very well, is heading. We understand this is not even being put so much the details of what he's supposed to be doing. He's supposed to be an independent investigator into that matter. And this is coming up. Do you think that that's propelled the release, or do you think the executive had pushed the CBN under the acting governor to push this out?
I think so. I think it is the executive that, especially the person leading the investigation, the independent investigator, it's important for us to know what actually happened. And that is why we are seeing some of these reports.
So let's take it one after the other. Yeah. Okay.
And if we have seen this report, maybe we would have a way of salvaging Nigeria from getting deep in the current economic mess. So today, if those banks' term of borrowing elapses, and they lapse and they say they need their money back, you know what will happen to Naira?
What will happen?
Naira will get devalued because we don't have anything to defend. We are 40% of your instruments.
All the shots, all the defenses,
yes, so
all the securities.
If it goes off, what do you think will happen? Naira, under this current regime, may go as poor as 1,500 to $1. Already, we are battling between 920 to 1,000. Government have said we want to allow forces of demand and supply. The acting central bank governor mentioned that between 18 to 20 billion that came in the name of remittances was not going to the official window. How will it go to official window? And this is the question I like to ask. If I give you $1,000 today, where will you take it to? Commercial bank to give you at 750, or parallel market to give you at 920? Chances are, you don't need to answer. I don't want to put you on the spot. You are the one interviewing me. Chances are very high that you will take it to the parallel market. Why? Because you're a rational being. So if we say we are unifying, and we say that it's not unification, because you cannot unify. What supply? You see, I wish we had time to talk about the real solutions. You see, the challenge we have is the supply side. If we make a proclamation that we are unifying, yes, you can say any window Naira should keep devaluing up to any amount. The question is, have we been able to stop the roller coaster? Have we been able to solve the real challenge? The real challenge has not been solved. Crude is our major means of earning. We don't have control over the price, 1. 2, a lot of theft is going on within the Niger Delta region where we milk some of these resources from. 3rd, the other natural resource that we have, we don't even have data as to what is going on right now in Elisha, what is going on right now in Zamfara. We don't even have data as to how many gold in their volumes, other natural mineral resources are extracted from the soil of Nigeria. And we wonder, because some of them are taken out of Nigeria even by air, without any record. And it is what you export that will boost the value of your currency.
Let me take some of these major issues one after the other. But I mean, I like to see this because sometimes you go to see a medical doctor, you go through a test, and you want to ask a question. The doctor tells you there are 2 news. One is bad, one is good. And I like to have an understanding of your own summary of the state that the CBN is right now. How bad is it?
Well, I think
with what we know now.
Yeah, with what we know, the Central Bank of Nigeria is in a very horrible situation financially. A very, very horrible situation. 1, the bank has lost control of what the exchange rate should be. Not just because the president say, let us float. I think if the president had asked this information, there would have been a rethink before making that statement. If the president had had this information, because everything revolves around the exchange rate. And remember the core mandate of central bank, price control, which is price stability, I beg your pardon, price stability, not price control, and exchange rate stability. With the revelation that we have, with how monies were released, among other things that we'll still discover in this report, the Central Bank of Nigeria should be restructured. And I want to say that we may need to even adopt what England is using, removing the regulatory body from the central bank and allowing, maybe splitting it into two. One to focus directly on the commercial bank regulation, another to focus on the functions of government. Because mixing the two together, honestly, it's giving us a lot of issues.
So when you say that the CBN is in a terrible situation right now, one of the things that I know also inspire investment and also inflow is confidence rating. You will be treated badly or otherwise if you have your stance or your status, the credit bureau will check whether or not you can get a certain loan or not. And the rating of the CBN has been terribly impaired. That is part of the report.
Yes, so the rating is impaired, even the rating of our country, if not because of some of the policies that we started seeing some review taking Nigeria from negative to stable. It has been horrible. And I can tell you that even rating agencies don't have access to this report before the last rating went on. Now, when you look at what the central bank has done, there's no rating agency that can score us high. Because when you have security lending, it's supposed to be for short term. And the monies, it's like using some security to guarantee some borrowings. But in this case, the borrowing itself, it comes at a cost. We are paying. Two, it now forms substantial parts of our reserve. Third, what happens to all the remittances? Fourth, we spent 141 billion naira on two policies. On two policies. One, RT 2000, that is repatriation of about $200 billion into Nigeria, which was not successful. Two, giving, I think, extra 5 naira to everyone that brings $1 to the central bank, which was another failure. But those two policies got, according to that report, 141 billion naira. Do you know the implication of that? Again, look at the central bank. Nobody has, until recently, has known what was paid in salaries. Do you know that even the central bank as a body might have earned in allowances and salaries more than the Senate of Nigeria? But what is common for people to say is to criticize the Senate. I am not saying the Senate is right or wrong. I'm not taking a position for or against the Senate. I'm just saying that it is nice when these publications are made regularly, and if it is not made regularly, those in government must ask those responsible to be accountable, not just to them, but to all of us.
Let's anchor. And in 30 seconds, I'm being told that we need to anchor and we need to wrap up. So Edo State Governor Godwin Obaseki was right when he said they were printing money.
I spoke with your colleague on News at 10 when he made that comment. I remember I was in your studio. He was right. Printing money does not mean going to print paper. The activity of central bank is printing money. Even as we speak, we are printing money.
They control the security and printing in. That's
exactly.
Part of the,
so what the governor was saying was not printing literally. So what he's saying is that there was quantitative easing.
So
that was going on,
part of the
which
report
is very
shows,
correct.
Mr. Alaji, which is what I'm bringing you to, is the fact that the report reveals that the bank has been funding federal government budget deficit for several years within this period.
I agree 100%. And you could see that through via the Ways and Means that was illegally, as against what the Act mentioned that the central bank should do. The central bank has been doing that. It was the Senate that tried to cover up for the central bank of Nigeria.
The cover-up, it shows that the lending to the government considered about 74% of the loan and receivables, and those experts have criticized that this was a major impairment on our economy.
You see, Nigeria economy went through the worst states in the last 8 years in terms of economy. Now, President Buhari might have done all that in infrastructure, but when it comes to economic management, we have never had this bad in the history of the country.
In one sentence, how can Tinubu correct this?
Well, first of all, he needs to focus on the supply side. And that supply side is a lot. It's not what I can conclude in one set. I will be at time for solution. What the challenge we have is supply in agro, supply in production, supply in manufacturing, supply in investment, etc., etc. Supply side is a robust conversation that we cannot even discuss within 5, 10, 15, 30 minutes. It's a huge conversation because we need to look at our problem critically and start asking questions. How do we boost supply, which includes, for instance, let me give you one of the things that came to mind, which is...
Apologies.
I understand.
Thank you so much. Paul Alaji, Chief Economist at the SPM Professionals. Thank you so much indeed. Some of these conversations just get to me. It punctures a very soft spot in my heart, and I don't know how many Nigerians feel tonight, because it affects our bottom line, our baseline. As a people, what you can spend is affected by some of these activities, and I hope that government and the people who are working in some of these agencies just get their act together.